To achieve happiness, given average good fortune requires a change in mistaken views of the world, ethics, and habits of life, restoring the natural zest for possibilities upon which all happiness ultimately depends. Now, on the contrary, I enjoy life. I might almost say that with every year that passes, I enjoy it more. This is due partly to having discovered what were the things that I most desired and having gradually acquired many of these things. Liberation from the tyranny of early beliefs and affections is the first step towards happiness for these victims of maternal virtue. Vanity, when it passes beyond a point, kills pleasure in every activity for its own sake and thus leads inevitably to listlessness and boredom. Its cure lies in the growth of self-respect, gained through successful activity inspired by objective interests. Power kept within its proper bounds may add greatly to happiness, but as the sole end of life, it leads to disaster, inwardly if not outwardly. The typical unhappy man is one who, having been deprived in youth of some normal satisfaction, has come to value this one kind of satisfaction more than any other and has therefore given to his life a one-sided direction. If we can show that the doctrine of Ecclesiastes is not the only one open to a wise man, we need not trouble ourselves much with the later expressions of the same mood. If either the absence or the presence of novelty is equally annoying, it would hardly seem that either could be the true cause of despair. If I lived forever, the joys of life would inevitably, in the end, lose their savor. As it is, they remain perennially fresh. To say shortly why one values love is not easy. Nevertheless, I will make the attempt. Love is to be valued in the first instance, and this, though not its greatest value, is essential to all the rest, as in itself a source of delight. True love is a durable fire, in the mind ever burning, never sick, never dead, never cold, from itself never turning. To write tragedy, a man must feel tragedy. To feel tragedy, a man must be aware of the world in which he lives, not only with his mind but with his blood and sinews. The struggle for life is really the struggle for success. What people fear is not that they will fail to get their breakfast, but that they will fail to outshine their neighbors. The root of the trouble springs from too much emphasis upon competitive success as the main source of happiness. Success can only be one ingredient in happiness and is too dearly purchased if all the other ingredients have been sacrificed to obtain it. The emphasis upon competition in modern life is connected with a general decay of civilized standards where men and women appear incapable of enjoying more intellectual pleasures. Competition considered as the main thing in life is too grim, too tenacious, too much a matter of taut muscles and intent will to make a possible basis of life for more than 1 or 2 generations at most. Boredom is essentially a thwarted desire for events, not necessarily pleasant ones, but just occurrences such as will enable the victim of ennui to know one day from another. The opposite of boredom, in a word, is not pleasure, but excitement. The desire for excitement is very deep-seated in human beings, especially in males. I suppose that in the hunting stage it was more easily gratified than it has been since. A wish to escape from boredom is natural. Indeed, all races of mankind have displayed it as opportunity occurred. A certain power of enduring boredom is essential to a happy life and is one of the things that ought to be taught to the young. All great books contain boring portions, and all great lives have contained uninteresting stretches. No great achievement is possible without persistent work, so absorbing and so difficult that little energy is left over for the more strenuous kinds of amusement. The capacity to endure a more or less monotonous life is one which should be acquired in childhood. Too much travel, too much variety of impressions are not good for the young and cause them as they grow up to become incapable of enduring fruitful monotony. The rhythm of Earth life is slow, autumn and winter are as essential to it as spring and summer, and rest is as essential as motion. The human body has been adapted through the ages to this rhythm, and religion has embodied something of it in the festival of Easter. Purely physical fatigue, provided it is not excessive, tends if anything to be a cause of happiness. It leads to sound sleep and a good appetite and gives zest to the pleasures that are possible on holidays. But when it is excessive, it becomes a very grave evil. Modern life's relentless assault of noise, constant interactions with strangers, and the pervasive fear of job loss or bankruptcy lead to chronic nervous fatigue, leaving individuals perpetually weary and reliant on alcohol for elusive enjoyment. The wise focus on troubles purposefully, embracing an orderly mind, realizing the unimportance of many concerns. Happiness flourishes when one acknowledges the insignificance of worries and transcends self-centered concerns for a peaceful existence. The important kind of fatigue is always emotional in modern life. Purely intellectual fatigue, like purely muscular fatigue, produces its own remedy in sleep. The trouble with emotional fatigue is that it interferes with rest. A conscious thought can be planted in the unconscious if a sufficient amount of vigor and intensity is put into it. Most of the unconscious consists of what were once highly emotional conscious thoughts, which have now become buried. Facing fears with rationality and calmness, with concentrated thought, diminishes their terrors. Modern morality lacks the expectation of courage in various forms. Every form of courage, not just physical, should be admired, fostering a society with less worry and fatigue. Exciting pleasures are not a road to happiness. A prudent man must ration himself to avoid undermining health and interfering with work, while societal change is needed for the radical cure of young troubles. Envy, a universal and deep-seated passion, fuels unhappiness and underlies democratic movements. In both men and women, envy manifests in subtle glances, scandalous beliefs, and the pursuit of virtue through punishing perceived competitors. Envy, the most unfortunate trait in human nature, not only drives one to inflict misfortune but also renders the envious person unhappy. The cure lies in happiness, yet envy itself becomes a formidable obstacle to it. To cure envy, abandon comparisons and appreciate the pleasures of the present. Happiness lies in enjoying what you have, not in futile comparisons with others. Unnecessary modesty breeds envy. Teaching someone to appreciate their worth avoids the pitfalls of comparison and fosters contentment, much like peacocks who find peace in their individual splendor. In an era of shifting social hierarchies, envy expands with competition. While envy may drive justice, its outcomes often diminish the fortunate rather than uplift the less privileged. Idealistic social changes should rely on forces beyond envy for true justice.